Well, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is assuring world leaders that the AUKUS subs deal is good for the security of the Indo-Pacific and doesn't pose any nuclear threat. He stopped over in Fiji on his way back from San Diego, just in time for one of his predecessors, Paul Keating, to unload on the AUKUS deal at the National Press Club. I spoke to Chief News anchor Kieran Gilbert, who's been travelling with the PM. Kieran, the Paul Keating remarks have caused a bit of a stir within the Labor government, haven't they?
Yes, Andrew, the Prime Minister might have been travelling in his delegation, but it has been noticed, of course, the former Prime Minister, a hero of the Labor Party, but the view within the government from senior ministers that I've heard from already is that the world has changed in the 27 years since the former Prime Minister was in office, and that it's a bit sad the way that he's come out and had a crack at the Albanese government so soon after such a major announcement as the AUKUS submarine optimal pathway, as it was detailed in San Diego yesterday. So they've noticed it. I'm not sure they're that worried about it. They've got to deal with it, but this is a huge part of their foreign policy and their defence policy going forward, and nothing will change despite the intervention of the former Prime Minister Paul Keating.
How much have Anthony Albanese and Penny Wong been working to reassure our region about the AUKUS deal, bearing in mind the concerns of the Indonesian and Malaysian governments and concerns where you are in the Pacific?
They've been super busy on this one, both Penny Wong, the Prime Minister, and Richard Marles for that matter, on the phone over the last few days to many leaders, dozens of world leaders and foreign ministers, wanting to ease concerns in the region about the AUKUS deal. One of the reasons is the Treaty of Rarotonga, which means the South Pacific, Australia's a signatory to that treaty, is nuclear free. And the Prime Minister, along with the Foreign Minister, wanting to say to their counterparts that this is not about nuclear weapons, it's not about proliferation, it's about nuclear-propelled submarines. So they want to reassure their counterparts, as the Prime Minister has sought to do today here in Fiji.
Australia is investing in our capability, but we're also investing in our relationships, and it's wonderful to be welcomed here by Prime Minister Rabuka here in Fiji.
The Prime Minister received another warm welcome here in Fiji, as he has done throughout this overseas visit, this time from the new Prime Minister Sitiveni Rabuka, the traditional Sevu Sevu welcome, and the Prime Minister, Andrew, even wearing a red and green South Sydney tie for Mr Albanese.
Since the government came to office, they have been intent on ensuring there is not a pseudo-Chinese takeover of the Pacific. Can we read something of that into the PM's visit to Fiji on the way home?
Yes, I think absolutely it needs to be seen in that context. The government's had many visits already, several by the Foreign Minister, many by the Prime Minister as well, in terms of talks both in the Pacific and in Canberra. And it is about trying to counter that Chinese influence, and no doubt the Chinese authorities already are trying to leverage AUKUS to create further disquiet among Pacific nation members, to say, look, Australia can't be trusted. Well, the message from Australia and the United States and others is that this is not a threat to the Pacific nuclear-free zone, and this is completely in line with all of those obligations. Australia and the United States also trying to ease any issues with China, not trying to take them by surprise, to be transparent. This was a spokesperson from the Pentagon overnight.
Regarding engagements with the People's Republic of China, the State Department did do that, and I would refer you to them for the substance of that dialogue. I would, of course, highlight what you've heard often from Secretary Austin, which is that open communication between our two countries is important for risk management and for understanding what one another is thinking.
And the Pacific countries are keen on the government's climate change approach. I imagine that will come up in talks with Mr Rabuka today.
Andrew, climate change is the top priority here in Fiji, as it is right across the Pacific. Any Pacific leader that Albanese speaks to, this will be the top priority. There is absolutely no doubt about it. And Albanese believes he's got a good story to tell, and there is also the truth to it that these leaders, including Rabuka, see the Albanese government as a big improvement on their predecessor when it comes to this issue.